Jefferson and the Washington. Let's bring in right now Republican Congressman from Georgia. He is Representative Jack Kingston, also a member of the House Appropriations Committee. Jack, good to see you.
Joe, it's great to be with you.
What is the Republican Party's answer to Barack Obama's lack of focus, as Warren Buffett would say, on the economy?
Well, I think, what we want to do is move them in the direction of let's focus on expanding credit and creating jobs, because that's really the number one issue. The number two issue is Afghanistan, the Middle East in general, and maybe let's put aside for the time being health care and cap and trade and education reform and D.C. voting rights and freedom of choice, or the card check for employees and union organizers. Let's put that aside for right now and just keep trying to shore up the economy and create jobs. And one way we can do it is to implement the electronic verification of Social Security numbers on the stimulus package jobs.
So, Jack, let me ask you this. Let's say the president decided today to come out and say, tell you what I'm going to do. I've listened to Warren Buffett. I've listened to Jack Welch. I'm going to put aside all these other issues for now. We're going to fix the banking crisis. And I've just been told by the Treasury Secretary and independent economists that it's going to cost us $2.5 trillion to make banks solvent again and get the economy started. Would other Republicans follow that type of leadership?
I think we would work within that context. We would say, okay, this is great. We agree with you on the fundamental decision to put the banking crisis, the credit crisis first to create jobs. We're all on board on that. Now, do we really need to spend $2 trillion to get there, or could we do it by re-implementing mark-to-market, the uptick rule? Could we suspend capital gains tax? Could we take off some of the regulatory burdens on banks like the Community Reinvestment Act? Could we do things like that rather than obligate $2 trillion? However, I think Republicans have shown this fall that we're willing to take tough votes like on the Wall Street bailout.
You understand, if you do all of those things and you still understand that there's a possibility you're going to have to spend a lot of taxpayer dollars to make these banks solvent, would you be willing to do that? Would the Republican caucus be willing to do that?
I think the caucus would do that if assured that this is going to turn the economy around. The problem that we had with the bailout and with the other bailouts and the stimulus package is we spent a lot of money and there's very little return on it. For example, the stimulus package, $790 billion, but it only had $45 billion for public works type job creating programs. The rest of it was fluff stuff, and that's where our difference really was.
Mike Barnicle, you heard what Jack said. A lot of different things they could do, as well as giving money, change mark-to-market rules, some of these other issues. Would that be sufficient?
That I don't know, Joe, but I would like to ask the Congressman, who clearly knows a lot more about it than I do, about David Brooks's column in today's New York Times. Congressman, he's got a few tips for the Republican Party. I'd like to read just a paragraph to you. Brooks writes this morning, if the free market party, Republicans, if the free market party doesn't offer the public an honest appraisal of capitalism's weakness, the public will never trust it to address them. Power will inevitably slide over to those who believe this crisis is a repudiation of global capitalism as a whole. A, do you think that capitalism has great weaknesses? What do you think they are, and what would you do about them?
Well, I think that there is weakness in capitalism, but I think there's more strength in that than there is government centralized planning, which just seems to be where we're going. I think a lot of what Brooks is saying, Mike, is correct. We did not do a good job of holding the line on spending, and we are just saying, no, we can't do anything right now. I think our number one job really is to help this administration refocus on the credit and say, look, put health care aside, put the education goals aside, put cap and trade aside, because all those, in one way or the other, are going to be expansion of the government and higher taxes and therefore killing jobs. And it's ironic that health care is one of the sectors of the economy that has actually done well. So, I think what Brooks is saying, there's some valid criticism in that, and we as Republicans need to get on board with focusing on the crisis at hand, which is credit and banking.
Well, how do you, not personally, Congressman, but how do you as a party get off the hypocrisy hook of driving up the deficits for the 8 years under President Bush, and now talking about let's cut back and let's reduce the deficit.
You know, one of the things I do in my district is I say, look, we get a C- on a good day for spending, but we did have Katrina, we had Iraq, we had Afghanistan, we had all the anti-terrorist expansions and post 9/11. There were some reasons for spending, but we did go overboard. Clearly, the earmarking was out of control. We've got to confess that and admit that. And then I think people are saying, yeah, but we really don't like all that Obama's doing right now in terms of government expansion and centralized planning.
Yeah. All right, Jack, there you go. And what is that? As I always say to my Republican friends, the first step in the 12-step process is admit your mistakes. You have done that. Like Jim Cramer, like myself, we're all absolved.
Okay.
We're all in the same boat. We're going to get this done.
We are.
Congressman.
All right. Thank you so much, Jack. Greatly appreciate it. That's a positive approach.
An honest answer.
Isn't that a great positive approach?
I like honesty.
I love it. All right.
Coming up, Eugene.